Dear listeners, once again we are back with another story by our favorite superstar creator Travis aka Maliciouslogic3740. So, without taking any more time, let's start. Baxter Davis drove his way home after a brutal day at the plant. All that hauling furniture and equipment that can weigh 100 to over 300 pounds, putting them away in rafters 100 feet above the ground, as a dual picked can do a lot on the human body in the middle of summer in Austin, Texas, especially for 16 hours straight. In fact, if you were sleeping on a bed, sitting in a chair or couch, or even putting clothes in a dresser, chances are that Baxter handled and cared for it before you got to use it. Baxter was of Irish and Polish descent. At 31 years old, he stood at 5'9", with a lean build. He got the lean from wrestling back in his high school years. Despite losing some muscle, he maintained his health and build. As Baxter was driving home, however, he could not help but think that despite being a shit show at work today, home would be worse as he mentally prepared for the emotional battle that was to come. He did not understand why it was like this. He and his wife, Megan Miller Davis, a bank manager, 31, standing at 5'6" of Irish descent, have been married for over 5 years now. They even have 2 children, Melissa, 13, who they had before they graduated high school, and Alex, 8, whom they had soon after their marriage. Those first 7 years were among Baxter's best in his life. Then, a few years ago, it all changed. She started to withhold sex. Whenever he brought it up, she would make it sound like that was all he cared about. Look, I'm just not in the mood, okay? It happens. I'm not your property that you can screw when you want. Where the hell did that come from? You haven't touched me in almost 3 weeks. You won't tell me if it is something health-wise. Just drop it. No, I'm not dropping it. Either we talk about it, or the thing that gets dropped is this marriage. I'm not going to beg to have sex with my wife. So, you tell me what is going on or this marriage is gone. There was one thing that Megan could not stand. It was that Baxter was not a weak man to bend to her will, nor was he an idiot. She knew he meant every word, and what was worse, he did this because he cared. She told him that it was stressful at work that had her off, and to keep the peace, she apologized to him for not letting him know. She had sex with him just to save face, rather than to love and respect him. And the disrespect would continue. During family gathering or barbecue, she would disrespect him in front of her friends and guests, particularly her new friend Maxine Gullett. Maxine looked like something that came from a spy movie from the 80s. With her pale skin, she was toned and built like a supermodel with her hair slicked back. Her clothes seemed as if she were modeling on them no matter what they were. A truly beautiful woman, but with a truly dark and cruel soul. And from the start, she had strong hostility towards Baxter. She came due to Megan's invite, but was anything but grateful to Baxter. She had full intentions of taking little jabs at him here and there. Baxter shut that down before it could begin when she decided to mock his cooking skills on the grill. Must you use so much charcoal? Do you intend to feed us the actually coal instead what you intend to cook? Baxter, without turning around, responded, I intend to cook food for my friends and family, which you are clearly not. But I'm not rude. The trash can is right by the side of the house. Perhaps you can find something in that to your liking. In fact, I have a better idea. Why don't you leave? In fact, it is no longer a suggestion of any kind. Get out of my yard, you malignant, insufferable bitch. Maxine looked in shock, while Megan looked in embarrassment. Are you out of your mind, you a-hole? Baxter, without missing a bet. No, my mind is rather present. So much in fact that if you don't leave, I will call the cops. And Megan, I see you are about to say something, but remember this is my house. I bought it for us and it is in my name, and it was before we were married. So, if you want to give me an attitude about it, don't bother. I'm not going to be insulted by someone who looks like they can ola hoop in a Cheerio and thinks that is hot. Baxter then looks at the rude woman. Kick rocks, get your sorry Barbie reject self out of here already. Maxine had no choice but to leave. She left in both embarrassment and anger. Megan just went inside, leaving the party. Baxter just continued cooking with the guest and continued as if nothing happened. Since that day, Maxine grew a strong hatred towards that man. How dare he stand up to her and not let his wife trample on him? The bedroom was dead after that. More fights followed, as did more disrespect and rebuttals. Megan would belittle Baxter when she could at a vent. Baxter would then respond, You know it is funny you call me a loser, yet you married, said loser, had sex with said loser, had kids with said loser, and is having a drink paid by said loser. Exactly how does that make you look? Megan could do nothing but fume staring at Baxter. She hated how not only did he not take her shit, but made her look like a moron as a result. Despite the small victories, Baxter hated this. He hated having to argue non-stop with this stranger, who used to be his best friend and wife. He missed the talks and laughter from bad joke. He missed the caring and loving nature. He missed the woman who would comfort him when the world kicked his butt. He has no idea who this person is. He wants his friend back. Yet every time they argue or fight, he is reminded that much more that she is gone. As he continued his drive home, wondering what argument or fight was going to take place now. What happened to us? I don't understand. We used to be so much more than this. He thought back to their high school years when they first met. She was the nice and kind cheerleader, and he was the awkward and weird kid into sci-fi and fantasy books. He remembers how kind she was. Most of the guys noticed her because of her looks, and there was no denying how beautiful she was. But for him, it was how kind and compassionate she was. It was why he fell in love with her so much. He recalls when the school bully, Titus Jones, beat him up with his friends. For a 6'2" linebacker who talked about being a great guy to everybody, he was full of shit for the geeks and outcast of the school. Titus made it a point to be a jerk and bully on principle. Whether it be pulling down smaller kids' pants in the hallway during class change, shoving heads into toilets for fun, or simply beating kids up for fun, he was all for it. Then one day, he saw Baxter for the first time at the local park. Baxter was just minding his business reading the latest comic book when Titus came to him, snatching it away. Other kids in the area saw this and watched and waited for the eventual beatdown and the next victim to plead and beg. But what everyone saw surprised them. Baxter was a stick figure of a kid at that time, while Titus was a teenage behemoth of pure muscle. Yet Baxter did not show 1 ounce of fear. Titus seemed irritated at this and spoke in his arrogance. Hey freak, me and the guys are trying to practice over here. It stinks, so we can't concentrate. Get lost, loser. The other guys around him laughed at the comment. Baxter, without missing a beat, looked up with no emotion at first, then gave a slight smile. If your issue is the smell, then I suggest you close your legs. There is this magical thing called soap dickhead. Perhaps you can use some. Everyone was in shock as Baxter picked up the comic book and went back to reading it again. Enraged, Titus grabbed Baxter by the collar, bringing him to his face. You little shit. Who the hell do you think you are? You think you can talk to me like that? Without missing a beat, Baxter responded. As far as who I am, I'm some kid minding his own business while some jock craphead is having an insecurity complex. As thinking I could talk to you like that. I thought, the words came out. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm capable of talking to you like that. Here is another one for you. Screw you. You egotistical, highly emotional used jockstrap. With that, Titus punched him in the face. Feeling wobbly, Baxter held on to Titus's shoulders. Titus gloated. Hey guys, look at this. Funny man isn't so funny anymore. You got a joke for me, funny man? Titus and his crew laughed at the beaten boy. Onlookers just watched in horror at Titus's latest victim. Titus then shook Baxter again. Come on, funny man. Make me laugh. Amuse me. Baxter then looked at him in the eyes, then spoke. I don't know about funny, but the next time you take a shit, look at that water's reflection, and there is the real joke. You sorry sack of shit. Before Titus could say anything, Baxter gives him a strong head butt to Titus's nose, breaking it in the process. He then kicks him in the balls for good measure, bringing the overgrown bully to his knees. All the kids watching looked in shock and amazement. Baxter was a skinny dwarf compared to Titus, yet he did what no other kid in the school thought possible, stand up to him. Glasses, jeans, button-up shirt, and all. Baxter didn't have time to celebrate as Titus's friends then jumped at him, punching and kicking him while he was on the ground. Then Baxter heard something. It sounded like a girl's voice. If you jerk don't get out of here, I'll call the cops. In fact, there is a cop car right there. With that, the boys got Titus up and scattered. The girl went to help Baxter up. Are you okay? Baxter, bloody lip and all, gave a smile. Ah, I'm fine. I had it, ow. All under control. The girl just smiled at him. This crazy kid who stood up to the school bully. You know, that was nuts what you just did. You know that, right? Baxter responded. No less nuts than rudely interrupting someone reading Warhammer 40k. I just got to the Horus heresy that everyone is talking about. That jerk is lucky that what I did to him is all that happened to him after that stunt. The girl had no idea what he was talking about, but she laughed regardless. She then spoke. I'm Megan Miller. Baxter smiled and let out his hand. Baxter Davis. It is nice to meet you, Megan. Although, I would have liked to have met you under better and less painful circumstances. Both laughed at that. And thus was the start of their relationship. She loved how confident and brave he was at such odds. He loved how beautiful she was not just outside, but inside as well. And as time went by, their bond together grew, and eventually that bond grew to friendship, then into love. They dated throughout high school, always there for each other. Despite going to different schools, they always find time to spend together. Their favorite place to go was the old movie theater, the Polished Rose Movie Theater. They both loved comedies and would watch classics every other Wednesday night for the low audience. In time, they became intimate, which would result in the birth of their firstborn, Melissa. He remembers standing with Megan holding her hand as her parents screamed at her for being so reckless, but stood by her no matter what. Eventually, they would come to respect Baxter for that, especially when he proposed to her when they both graduated. Baxter took advantage of the programs his orphanage had set up for him to get his master's and bachelor's degree, while Megan went to the community college, maintaining their home, an apartment for 3. Times were hard, but they faced them together, only bringing them even closer as a family. By the time their youngest, Alex, was born, it was like nothing could stop them. Now, as Baxter walks on the steps of his house, he wonders what caused this unbreakable bond to eventually break. As he walks inside, he sees that his bedroom light is on upstairs. Before heading up to his eventual fight, he notices a framed picture next to the TV set. He holds it and brings it closer to him. It was their first picture as a family. He remembered how Megan did not want to be like everyone dressed up in a professional group family photo. She wanted something genuine and magical, and he agreed. So, they both decided to take their kids to see the original Lion King at their favorite theater. He remembered as if he and everyone sung all the musicals together, especially Hakuna Matata. Melissa was 9, singing her heart out as he had her on his shoulders in the back row. Megan had Alex on hers, as he sung as well. When it was over, an older gentleman complimented how lovely a family they had and offered to take a picture for them and them alone. Megan had Alex on her shoulders, making a goofy face under Alex's beautiful smile. Baxter had Melissa next to him. He stuck his tongue out while she stretched her eyelids. As he looked at the family photo from so long ago, he did not notice the tears that fell onto it. What happened to us? He asked himself. He is knocked out of his stupor when he hears footsteps coming downstairs. He sees his wife in a beautiful red dress, her legs showing through the bottom, as her cleavage, although covered, but also visible to anyone who looked hard enough. My God, Megan, you look amazing. I did not know you were planning a date. Give me a few. I'll be ready in 15 minutes. Megan turned and gave him a hard look. Baxter, there is no need for you to get ready. However, I'm going on a date, but it is not with you. Baxter paused as he felt his heart break inside him. He had to catch himself before he asked a question. I'm sorry, did you just say you were going on a date? As in a romantic liaison with someone who is not your husband? A look of defiance came to her face. I knew it. I knew you would have an issue with this. Maxine warned me that you would. You really need the opinion of that shallow bitch to know this is a bad idea? Jesus, Megan, what is wrong with you? Ever since you met that evil woman, you have completely changed. Then you go to that bullshit retreat to rediscover yourself. And the only thing you discovered is how convenient and cool it is to disrespect me, your husband, the man that loves and supports you. You insult me every chance you get, and now out of nowhere, you come up with this bullshit? And what do you expect me to do with this? Megan stood firm as she responded, to be the supporting husband that you claim to be. To be home when I get back, then we can talk about saving our marriage. You stood in my way of progress the moment I came back from my retreat. You even embarrassed me in front of my friends. Yes, Baxter, I'm going out, and yes, I may or may not have sex, but I'm doing this for us. Our time in the bedroom has been cold, and don't you dare drop that bullshit on me, Megan. I'm not some simp that is perfectly all right with being a cuck. That is bullshit, and you know it. You are doing this because of that bat-crazy, self-absorbed bitch of a friend you have, and for yourself. Don't you dare say this is for us. Baxter stood there in front of his wife, enraged by her actions, yet calm enough to not put his hand on her. He then takes a few deep breaths before he speaks again. Tell me, my loving wife, how would you feel if I got suited up in a tuxedo all nice like? Told you as you were coming home from the store that I'm going on a date that would likely end with me screwing someone's brains out? Pure rage and venom came to her face. Don't you dare. I would crush your balls and make you and that bimbo eat them. Megan suddenly realized what she had said, seeing the hypocrisy of her words. Guilt began to fill her, but she ignored it. But Baxter then spoke. That's what I thought. I'm not going to argue with you about this, Megan. I have no idea what happened to the woman I once upon a time called the love of my life, or best friend. But I will say this. The moment you walk out of that door, do not bother coming back. Megan was shocked at his words. You don't mean that. Just then a knock on the door was heard. As Megan opened the door, it was Maxine wearing an elegant dress herself, and another man. He was very well built and muscular. Darling, are you ready for the night of your life, you lovely? Maxine then sees Baxter staring daggers at her. Normally, she would be terrified by the way he looked at her. But tonight, she had backup. Oh, it is you. The useless idiot. Yeah, I would say it is nice to see you, Maxine. But that would be a lie. You walking abomination of a living abortion. Maxine felt the sting of that insult. She always hated that Baxter was the only man that was quicker with his wit than she was, not to mention confident and intelligent. Her male companion steeped inside and began to crack his knuckles. He then spoke to Baxter. I'm a Gold Gloves boxer who can bench over 300 pounds. I think it is time you apologize to the lady, my guy. Baxter had a look in his eye that was unreadable, but then he spoke. Over 300 pounds? Holy shit, that is a lot to bench. But can I ask you something? The man was confused as he was a good 10 feet away from him. What is it, you misogynistic clown? Baxter just spoke. Great, you're one of those. Anyway, my question to you, Mr. Strong Boxer Guy. Do you think you can bench 200 grains? The man was confused, because that is about the weight of bullet a .357 Magnum shoots. Without warning, the gun was pulled out of the locked cabinet he placed the weapon in, fully loaded. With a grim look in his eyes, he keeps the weapon on the man. Okay, look man, I'm sorry, alright? I'm just the ladies' driver, that is all okay. Don't shoot, man, please. Both women look at Baxter shocked and terrified as the man makes a beeline to the waiting Bentley. When he is gone, Baxter then lowers the weapon. Megan, despite the reality that the guy's brain matter was almost painted on the wall. I love you with all my heart, but I will not be so disrespected to allow my wife to make me a cuck. The moment you leave this house to go with that vile woman is the moment our marriage will end. Megan then looks at Baxter, then Maxine, then makes her choice. We can talk about this tomorrow, dear. Good night. And with that, she and Maxine walk into the car, and he watches as it drives off. Baxter is stunned by it all. He can't even speak. He just stares at the picture he sees earlier and breaks down. It finally happened. Despite holding on for all this time, loving with all he could, his marriage is over. It is not until he looks at the family photo from earlier that he breaks down, crying for all his worth. He cries for the love and friend that he lost. He cries for his kids and sees how things will be different now. He cries for the death of his family that he loved with all his heart and provided for all these years, as it is now over. Dad? Baxter looks up to see his kids, Melissa and Alex, standing next to each other in their bedclothes. Why are you crying? His son Alex asks in an innocent voice. Oh, sorry about that, little man. Dad is just figuring out some things, and it is hard. I didn't mean to wake you guys. Dad, what's wrong? And why did Mom leave with those people? Baxter paused before he spoke. He knew how intelligent his kids were. They were his after all. He knew he was not going to lie to them. But he did not want to have this conversation. Your mom and me, we are going to not live together for a while. Now before you guys say anything, this is not your fault. This is between us. Both children cried as they hugged their father. Dad, does this mean you and Mom are getting a divorce? Baxter sadly looked at his daughter. Yes, baby, it does. But no matter what happens between me and your mother, I know that we both love you very much and will always be there for you. Tears came down on their cheeks before Alex spoke. But why can't you and Mommy be together anymore? Don't you and Mommy love each other? Baxter brushed the tears from his son's face as his own shed. I do love your mother, son, very much. And despite what she did, I believe she loves me too. But love is sometimes not enough to keep a family together. You must have respect and loyalty too, and care and compassion. Love is important and strong, yes, but without those things, it is only a word that is spoken without the actions behind it that make it strong. Do you both understand? Both nodded and hugged their father again. Okay, guys, I need you two to go back to bed. After he brought the kids to bed, Baxter began his plan. He called the 24/7 locksmith and had the house locks changed. Once that was done, he went online and took out half of the money in his joint account, leaving her $8,000. He then paid off and canceled the credit cards, making it so the only money she could spend was her own. Once everything was complete, he went to bed. The following morning, Megan left the Bentley, her hair disheveled from last night's event. A wicked smile painted on Maxine's face. Didn't I tell you that it would be a mind-altering experience, darling? Megan could not deny her friend's comment. Maxine was in her 30s, yet had the looks of a supermodel in her 20s. Megan felt like a schoolgirl who rebelled against her parent, so alive. All the things she did. Having sex, she never thought possible. From being double-teamed by two guys, to being pleasured by women including Maxine. She reached peaks of sexual pleasure she did not imagine. It was better than I ever imagined. That idiot husband of mine will just have to get used to the change. Maybe if he is lucky, he can have sloppy seconds. That will teach him for being such a jerk. Atta girl. Show that pig head who's boss. I will see you next week for our next gathering, darling. Let me know when you wake up. All right, babe. Talk to you later. As the car drives off, she makes her way to the door. When she places her key inside, however, it won't work. What the hell? What is wrong with this thing? For the next 5 minutes, she tries in vain to open it, but to no avail. Goddamn you, Baxter. You actually changed the locks? I sure did. She nearly jumps out of her skin hearing his voice from behind her. Garage. Now, when she stepped inside, she saw all her clothes bagged up. Before she could ask Baxter to speak, your dresser and other items are in the storage center downtown. I just came back from there. Your clothes are already bagged up. You should also know I put up a restraining order due to your friend from yesterday getting ready to harm me in my own home as you did nothing. So, except for picking up your stuff, I don't want you here. I'll have the divorce papers ready for you as soon as possible. Megan was stunned. He did it. Her husband had decided he did not want this. She truly thought that he would see reason and just ignore the disrespect she showed him, yet this still comes as a shock to her. You are really doing this? You are going to end over 10 years of marriage over a little night out? Nice hickey you got there. Megan turned red from embarrassment. The hickey he was referring to was not on her neck, but the top of her left breast. She then saw the stone like the face he showed, not showing any emotion. She then scowled. You are going to regret this, you son of a bitch. I'm going to destroy you in the courts. Baxter just went inside the door to the kitchen. By the way, this place is monitored. Any evidence of damage will be used against you. He then shut the door. Megan could do nothing but yell in resentment. That maggot is always a step ahead of me. I'll make him pay for this. She then made an embarrassing call to Maxine and asked her for a place to stay. Maxine allowed it, of course. She then gathered her clothes and out them in her car and drove off, her middle finger in the air. Baxter just drank his orange juice, numb to the whole thing. He asked his adoptive father Bear to watch the kids last night. He was thankful for that so that they would not have to see this. Bear would also look up a good divorce lawyer for Baxter in the meantime. Fortunately, he was open late. After drinking his juice, he decided it was time to see Bear and the kids. They were likely confused about the whole thing and missed their dad. But also, it would be nice to see Bear and the fort again, the place where he grew up as an orphan. As he drove to the orphanage he once called home, he thinks about the man who was like a father to him and so many others. He looks back at how thankful he was that he did not become another statistic, but he wouldn't with someone like Bear and others being there for him. The kids visited him many times since they were born. They even called him Grandpa on many occasions. Bear didn't tell anyone, but he teared up when they did that the first time. He fell in love with them since. One could say he is the grandfather to thousands of children, because he saved many of their parents when they were kids themselves. So much could have happened. Baxter thinks to himself as he continues the drive to see Bear and the kids, and the thought of the past play in his mind. From what he knew, and even a little before that, Baxter's biological parents were drug users and criminals. In fact, they met their demise when he was literally born a few weeks ago. His parents wanted drugs but needed money. So with their hospital passes still on their person, they rob a gas station. They made the mistake of underestimating the owner when Baxter's mother put a gun to the owner's daughter. The owner was a marksman for the United States Navy SEALs, and with a flick of his hand and a well-placed shot, he had her brain matter on the walls before the body slumped to the ground dead. With the assistance of his Colt Competition 1911 .45 caliber pistol. Before Baxter's father could do anything, the wife, whom was a United States Navy vet, came out of the back room with a pistol grip Benelli M. For semi-automatic shotgun with a single slug removed the would-be killer's head from his shoulders as he attempted to avenge his lover. Amidst the chaos, the panicked girl, a 14-year-old who was helping her parent for summer, broke down in tears. The mother, with a shotgun in hand, checked on her daughter, while the father was checking the bodies, making sure they were in fact dead. He was about to meet up with his family when he heard a baby crying from the car in the parking lot. It was hot outside, so on principle he removed the baby from the hot vehicle. Police soon arrived on scene. After investigations, it turned out they were a criminal couple that started their crime sprees a few years prior, stating from Los Angeles, California, to end in Austin, Texas. They have been robbing banks, drug dealers, pharmacies, and convenience stores all this time, having a baby in the middle of it. Baxter was taken into the state's custody and raised in the orphanage Saints Tiers. Unlike many of its peers, this facility had a genuine and well-established reputation for having some of the best teachers, counselors, and parental figures running it. Its headmaster was its most controversial figure, His name was Bernard Bear Goldberg. He was a biracial man of black and Jewish descent, a hulk of a man, all muscles and strength, standing at 6'1". He was also an ex-convict who had formed a street gang years ago. He is known for his intellect but used violence if need be. He made it a point to only attack those in life. He would rob other gangs or drug dealers in his area. Although he was of Jewish descent, his gang was mixed of different ethnicities. Regardless of their background, the gang was well known for its violence in the criminal underworld. One night, however, he was robbing another gang, but he was set up by one of his lieutenants, who made a deal with another gang for more power. Bear tried to fight his way out of it. It resulted in 2 men being shot dead by him. It looked like he would get away, but he was soon ambushed and shot multiple times. He awoke handcuffed to a hospital bed and told his entire crew was dead and gone. Their bodies had been found throughout the entire city, along with the lieutenant who had betrayed them all. He cried like a baby that night. To him, they were not just a gang, they were a genuine family. And now they were dead, along with some of their family members. He was sentenced to 30 years for his crimes. The first 5 years were his most violent. He would fight inmate and staff alike, usually for self-defenses. However, it would be in prison where he found change. During his stay in solitary, he was given the options of reading book by an old inmate. He would read books such as the Holy Bible, The Alchemist, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Art of War, the entire Encyclopedia Britannica, as well as books on law. It was during this time he asked himself what he had been doing all these years, using all his ills as an excuse to harm others. He had learned so much yet could not help but be disappointed in himself for putting himself in this position to learn what he has, when he could have been free and done so. How many lives could he have saved with his influence? It was then that he decided to make a real change from then on. Realizing what he created did nothing but destroy, he wanted to give back to the community that he helped destroy. He earned his GED while serving time in prison, as well as his master's and bachelor's. He also became a counsel to the other inmate in the prison with him, even those who he would once call his enemies. His skills and compassion grew, so much that even women from other prisons would invite him to speak for their own support groups. He became a social worker for prisons in the area. He would tell new inmates the error of their ways and warn them what awaits them if they continue. He would aid lifers to adjust to their fate, but remind them that they are still human, no matter what wall they wake up to. He would talk to those who suffered through sexual trauma, regardless of gender, telling them that what happened to them was not their fault, and not let their trauma define who they are. His real moment to shine came when a riot happened at the prison that he was staying in. It all happened so fast he could not stop it. Chow was completely silent. A young man who came to prison on suspicious circumstances died under those same circumstances after being transferred. The inmate, Charles Stevenson, was going home after his case was in the process of being overturned due to new evidence and appeals. From the first day when he arrived, he was harassed and beaten by the guards because it was discovered that he was in a relationship with one of the guards, Clarence Jenkins' youngest sister, Amanda Jenkins. Charles was a white male but was brought up by a black family when his parents were killed in an accident. Amanda, who was also white, came from a wealthy family that had strong ties in the community. There was no malicious intent, it was genuine love and affection. They met in high school, but he was framed for a theft at a convenience store. Witnesses placed him at the scene as the robber, but the truth was he was with Amanda having sex after prom. They had just turned 18. Clarence knew this and convinced the local drunk to place Charles on the scene due to similarities. Clarence was then convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison. The inmates saw him and knew he didn't belong there. So, they just advised him to stay to himself, not gamble, and do not rat or snitch, because unlike the guards, he lives here. Don't join a gang. Keep himself in shape and know how to defend himself. But if they did, he had to fight. Even if he lost, the last thing he would want to do is back down. This was not the outside world anymore. This was prison. Despite the crash course, Charles in time would adapt in his new home. They, even along with Bear, comforted him and taught him how to defend himself while inside, physically and legally. The guards for the most part had no issue with him. In fact, they themselves felt he didn't belong inside based on his politeness and teenage-like demeanor. He reminded many of them of their own sons in high school. However, a few of the guards hated that he was not miserable inside, particularly Clarence Jenkins. He always hated the fact that Charles was with his sister. He saw him as unworthy white trash that was brought up by animals. One day, Charles had learned that Amanda had been taken to the hospital to give birth to their daughter. He begged the warden to let him go. Since warden was made aware prior and based on how inmate and staff said he was a good kid, and he be granted the right to see the birth of his child. With the blessing of the prison, he was granted leave to witness his child's birth. He thanked the inmates who looked out for him, especially Bear, who was there for him on day one. He had become somewhat of a little brother or son to many of them. He reminded them that they were not monsters. Under guard, Bear was there with Amanda as they brought their son, Alex J. Stevenson, into the world. He then proposed to Amanda right there and then, and with the state's permission as well as funding from Charles's parents, they were married in the room with the chaplain and nursing staff right there. When he returned, he told everyone who would listen that he was married and a father now. Everyone, staff and inmate, were happy for him, everyone except Clarence. Of all the things that already insulted him, this was the last straw. He organized a surprise cell search with the full intention of finding contraband, but no matter how hard he looked, he found nothing. Frustrated, he found nothing, except a picture of his little sister, him, and their baby in a family-framed photo. The hospital had a nurse who gave them a one-of-a-kind frame. It was navy blue and had carved-out stars on the side, with a moon on top. The words, "Family Made in the Night," carved out, and a picture of all three in the center. This worked due to the baby being born at 10 at night. Clarence looked at it with contempt. "The fact that you laid with my sister to create this thing makes me sick to my stomach. Not only is my family disgraced to have you screw her, but to have a mutant as a result." Charles never gave staff or convict any issue. He was far from a punk, but he was not a troublemaker. But he was still a man, and his family had just been insulted. Charles balled his fist. An inmate saw what was happening and tried to talk Charles out of it. "Don't fall for it, youngster. He is pissed that you are going home, and you are almost free. Don't lose it now." But Charles was still young, influenced by emotion. So, Clarence played his hand yet again. "Was my bitch of a sister good to you? Did you at least pay her? Or even better, is the kid even yours, you sorry sack of?" Clarence couldn't finish as Charles' punch found his face. He got quite a few on him, so much so the guards with him had to take him off him. As he was taken away, Clarence smiled. He knew the charges would soon drop, but this was an assault charge that meant more time no matter what. Charles was then sentenced and shipped to another prison soon after. Amanda was devastated. A few weeks after he was moved, Amanda was given a call one night. She had just put her son to bed. After talking to Charles earlier that day, they decided to talk about where they were going to move to after his 3 years were up. Despite what was happening, they had no intention of breaking up with their family. She remembered how he told her he loved her, and how she told him she loved him, and wanted him to take her right then and there and create another child. She also remembered him laughing and showing that beautiful smile he always showed her. She then got out of her thoughts and answered the phone. "Yes? Who is this?" When the person on the other line spoke and delivered the news, her legs gave out. She was in too much shock to cry or make a sound as the tears fell. Charles's parents were there, and the mother consoled Amanda while his father picked up the phone. His father then hung it up and placed his hand on his wife. "Kara, our boy is dead." Now it was Kara's turn to cry, and cry she and the family did together. Charles was found in his cell hung. They labeled it a suicide. Everyone who knew him knew that was bullshit, but they marked it, nevertheless. Everyone knew who caused it, but no one could prove Clarence had anything to do with it. In public, he would put up the charade that he had no idea, but everyone who knew about his issues with Charles knew better. Some of the guards quit or went to other prisons or jails to avoid working with him. Others were genuinely not aware of the conflict or simply didn't care. But the convicts remembered everything, and they would have retribution. On the morning of his funeral, the inmates went to breakfast, but said nothing. They just ate. Even those who were in the security housing unit just ate in silence. The guards present were unnerved as they ate, yet no one spoke a word. They could hear a pin drop. It was during when the first cell block was going back from chow that it happened. A fight broke out between two inmates. As they were fighting, guards came to break it up, only to be attacked by the other inmates in the cell block. Using the key from one of the guards, they gained access to a control room, controlling the north side of the prison. The entire north side was compromised, and all inside guard and inmate alike were stuck inside together, including Clarence. Clarence was beaten nearly to death for what he had done to Charles. By the time it was over, he had been assaulted with a broom, his socket broken as well as his left eye completely useless as a result. But other staff who had nothing to do with it were captured as well, including a young woman who had just started her first day. She saw firsthand what they had done to him, and knew she would die if eventually because of it, and she was terrified. As this was all going on, Bear soon came into view and spoke. "This isn't the way, man. This is not what he wanted. And don't give me that bullshit that you are doing this due to poor conditions. I miss that kid too. And what those a-holes did to him is unforgivable. But we can't disrespect his memory like this. Not like this, man. Please. Those in charge looked at each other. He knew he was right. They had a lot of respect for Bear and where he stood. Many of them have reconnected with family because of him. Some are even going home because of him. But it was the fact that he was right. They wanted to kill Clarence and the other guards, but none of it would bring Charles back. But one of the leaders spoke. Bear, we got respect for you. You have always been solid with everyone. But this sack of shit needs to pay for what he did. Clarence then laughed through the pain. Yeah, good luck with that. With the way I look, your sorry sacks of shit will never see the light of the day after I'm done with you. And that little a-hole deserved what he got. He needed to be reminded of his place in the world. A man was about to shove a shank in his neck, but Bear yelled out, wait. He then looked at one of the leaders for approval, and he was granted it. Bear then walked to the deviant guard who spit blood in his direction. What could you possibly have to say, you sorry? His words were cut off when he saw a blue thread attached to a yellow button. The color drained from his face. He knew what those were once apart, and this is now proof it is no longer in his possession, and he knew that Bear knew what it was. It was a film about all the shenanigans that he and many others of influence partook in. He had photos of affairs between co-workers and officials in compromising positions with affair partners and prostitutes. And the video to match. Evidence of drug use on his private parties. Even the occasional sexual harassment with the spouses of inmates who were too ashamed and embarrassed to tell their husbands. He knew if it was discovered that he had all of this and it would be leaked. Being simply killed would be an act of kindness with what they could do to him. Bear then spoke. That file you had, the one that hid your secrets, are in safe hands now. But the secrets are going to come out. I could kill you right now. Hell, I think everyone here wants you dead. But that would be too easy for an egotistical piece of shit like you. When news spreads because it will spread, no one will be able to protect you anymore because they will have to try and save their own sorry butts. Eventually that badge and uniform that you used to push your bullshit authority for so long will be gone, and you will wear the same outfit that we wear. You hear me, you sorry sack of shit? You will be that what you hate. And for the moment that cell door closes behind you, and those tears fall realizing your world is dust, and the thought of what will eventually happen to you while you are inside, then you will pay for what you have done not just to Charles, but everyone your poison has touched. Think about that as you ponder when it's coming as you wait in what will eventually be your new home, you sorry sack of shit. Clarence pissed his pants as he spoke into his ear, and all in the room laughed at him. They looked at Bear. As he moves away from Clarence's ear, Bear then went to all the leaders and spoke to them in a different room, telling him what he told Clarence. They all nodded in agreement that it was best and agreed to end the riot. An hour later, the hostages were released as the state police brought an order to the prison. When it was over, Clarence was convicted of his crimes when they were made public by a news station. The allegations were explosive, as was the evidence. It brought back memories of scandals of corruption in the past. Clarence was one of many caught on this web of lies and destruction and was sentenced to 20 years for his crimes. But he would only serve 3 before he was found stabbed to death in the shower. Bear was seen as a hero and legend for saving the lives he did. As a result, the governor pardoned his sentence after serving 20 years inside. Soon after, he got in touch with community leaders who supported him for all the years, along with government officials and unofficially people of influence of the underworld, due to the respect they had for Bear. They, along with them, wanted the next generation to have a shot at a good life, something that many of them did not have. They soon raised more than enough money for the renovation of an old school that shut down in the 80s. Not only did they remodel the school, but built an entire campus around it, a campus for unwanted children, with staff that were both trained in childcare and the loving capability to care for children of all ages. The staff came from all walks of life, from teachers that came for private boarding schools, to ex-cons who can relate and show kids that there is another way in the path of life, to former police officers, military veterans, artists of all type. All adults can have a positive influence on a child. Baxter reflected the memory of the man that was like a father to him, and so many. He could see the campus coming up. It still looked like something from a movie, as its beauty and serene atmosphere was still present after all these years. As he entered its ground, he saw the guard station that granted access to the site. Security here was in 3 fractions. There was the general assistance security whom dealt with visitors and direction. They wore light blue polo shirts and pants of their choosing. Then there was the general security whom dealt with breaking up fights, escorting to and from property. They wore gray polo shirt and black pants. Then there was the armed security. Each armed officer was trained efficiently in how to handle firearms. They were seen as a last resort if they were ever a mass shooter or security breach situation. Their weaponry included a Glock 19, AR-15. There were over 100 security officers of all branches patrolling the campus. He soon passes the apartments and sleeping grounds for the staff. He thinks about all the people who stay there, the parental figures for this generation of children, who watches over and teaches them knowledge and a love that they had not believed they were worthy of. He then sees the dorm building for children. Each building is separated by age. This was the boys' area, ages infant to 18. He remembers the days in which he called these places home. He remembers hearing the horror stories of foster care, how so many were neglected and abused, or worse, and he thinks of those who brought him and so many others up. Eventually, he makes his way to the main campus building, the learning center where the children both played and learned. Many children would be adopted. Most, however, were not. And the people in charge of the school knew that, which was why they wanted those whom generally would love and care for the children here. This school produced many doctors, lawyers, scientists, law enforcement, trade masters, business owners, celebrities, and superstars because of their care and resolve of these kids. Some kids came from horrific backgrounds. Others came from young people who were not ready to be parents. At times, they were there from fathers who were ready, despite the mother giving them away without the father knowing. And they would make sure that unwanted child and unknown but wanting father would find each other after investigation and care, while making sure the bio mom would be held accountable for making such a drastic decision for not letting the father know. This school was built on merit, and Baxter was proud of living in its walls. He felt that he was blessed by having so many parents who loved and cared for him and raised him, teaching him what he knows now. As he continued walking through the halls of his old home, he overhears the one he came to see and headed to the gym nearby. Bear was in the middle of the gym talking to a group of teenagers in regards of what brought him to this point and why it was best to lead by example on who he was now, not what he had done. Now I see you all here. Many of you came from broken homes. Some even kicked out by your own parents who can't deal with you. Some of you have been abused in ways that no human being, let alone a child, should. But let me tell you that despite the pain you have endured, it is imperative that you not let that pain define who you are. Now you all have been here for 7 months to a little over a year, and you have come a long way. You have shown this world that you are more than a number or statistic, that you are more than some illegitimate child, that you are the future of this world. You know what I was before this, before I'm who I am today. The life I lived at was not honorable despite what these rap artists say. It was a life of destruction. It was going to the funerals of all whom I called friend and family. It was getting shot and nearly killed. It was spending 20 years in prison as the world passed me by. Y'all, no, I did not even know what texting was when I got out. There was talking and slight laughter at first, but then there was guilt for laughing at their mentor. Bear just smiled at them. It is all right, y'all. It is okay to laugh at it now. But I want you to realize the little things we take for granted if we allow our emotions to control us, putting us in situations. I want you to realize what you can lose when you lose your freedom. But I also want you to realize that the lifestyle I had is not it. Yeah, I had money. Yeah, my name was feared in the street. Yeah, I had respect, but not really. I was feared, which in time would bring hate and jealousy to my doorstep. It would cost me my friends as they were brutally killed one by one. Can you imagine seeing your best friend in a casket as you were handcuffed? And the only attendees are the preacher, grave digger, and guards watching over you? There was a pause in the room. Don't idolize something that is destructive. Give respect to something that can build. Be better than what I was. Be something more. And know this, I'm proud of you all today and hereafter. Bear smiled at their faces, seeing their smile in return. He then sees Baxter at the doorway. All right, you guy, back to school, okay? You still have 3 hours left, all right? The teens gathered their thing, some hugging Bear before going to their studies. A smiling Baxter waited until they were all gone before he hugged his parental figure from so long ago. Baxter allowed the tears to fall as he hugged Bear, the man who was like a father to him and so many. He even walked down many a bride too on their wedding day to give them away due to them never having a father but him. And many a young man who call he received in many an hour looking for guidance and advised in whatever ill had hit them. He was there for them all. And just like them, he will be there for Baxter. I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry. Baxter let out the emotions that he held for so long. He can finally let them go. Why? Bear, why would she do this to me? To us and the kids? It was like things were perfect a year ago, and now she just turned into a completely different person after a year. She was not just my wife, but my best friend, the woman who I loved with all my heart. Now, she is a stranger. And it hurts Bear. It hurt so much. Bear just held him and let him cry out his tears. After a few minutes, the two parted and spoke. Baxter, again, I'm sorry that you are going through this. But the fact remains, you are. What matters now is what you will do despite it. What Megan has done to you is not just disrespectful, but cruel, and you must not stand it. You are not just fighting for you, but your children. And make no mistake, she will come for them if it means hurting you. Speaking of the kids, they are in our childcare center of the campus now, safe and protective if the court allows it. Just as you requested. Megan will need a court order before she is allowed on this campus to see them if they are not home with you. In the meantime, tell me more about this friend of hers. Baxter shared everything he knows about Maxine and her influence. From lack of sex, the disrespect, and even the sheer cruelty which resulted in fights. Bear then asked him, "Do you think you can save this marriage?" Baxter gave a sincere look in Bear's face, not just no, but hell no. This marriage has been over for a long time. I just didn't want to believe it. Bear looked at him. I have someone who can help you with this. He has experience with this before. Even helped a guy who was a PE teacher who found his wife in a cabin full of the guys she was cheating with in the middle of a storm. Now that story was crazy, but that's for another time. Believe it or not, the guy I'm talking about, he helped bring down a lot of dirty a-holes who hurt a lot of people. Baxter was intrigued. Well, don't keep it in suspense, who is it? The woman was bent over the desk, being screwed from behind by her lover. Her cries echoing as he continued doing her non-stop. Oh, Andy. The quake of climax rocks the lovers. Andy Robbins exhales heavy on the woman beneath him as he wears his wedding ring. He then brings the woman's heavy breathing face to his, allowing them to have a passionate kiss as the wedding ring is held on her finger as well. My God, Andy, that was amazing. I must admit, when you called me over to ask for my opinion of how the next office and building for your private investigation looks like, I did not expect it to be such a bonding experience, my dear husband. Robin Albin Robbins gives a devilish smile as she kisses her husband after the session. Andy smiles back. Well, it is not often I get to break our new investigation business into existence in such a way. And I could not think of anyone else I would rather have such an experience with. You are not complaining, are you, my loving wife? A smile came across her face. After what we've been through these past 2 years, and the fact I can hold, make love to, and wake up to you there, why would I complain? It has been 2 years since they met, in the insanity that took place since then. His friend being cheated on by his wife, while inadvertently uncovering a sex trafficking ring that would expose the elite of this state and beyond. The women who were kidnapped and assaulted, the murders and tortures that he dared not think about. Robin nearly dying in the line of duty, finding out that the people who caused the death of her parents were now dead themselves. And in the insanity of it all, Andy and Robin found each other. She helped him to find his stolen children, and made his cruel ex-wife pay for what she had done by sending her to prison for the next 20 years. The children, Claire Robbins age 12 and Robert Robbins age 9, took the change guarded at first. They loved their father and cared for and respected the woman who aided him in finding them again, but they were afraid they would be taken away from him again. Before they were taken, they loved their father, and they were cruelly taken from him. They did not want their hearts to break again, but as time passed, they realized that they were safe, and that they not only rebuilt a long-lost bond with their father, but built one with Robin as well. Robin may have been one of the best Texas Rangers, but that did not prevent her from having such a caring and loving heart to those children. As time passed, they eventually would call her mom, being as if they never had a loving mother. Their mother merely took them to hurt Andy. Robin could not hide her tears as they called her that, and she loved them as her own ever since. When she and Andy told them that they would be older siblings, their kids were excited. And months later, little Jack Robbins was born. The 2 older siblings swore that they would protect their little brother no matter what. And Andy and Robin just felt truly blessed having such a loving family despite the chaos that plighted them at that time. After everything that happened, Andy decided he wanted to do more. He saw firsthand what infidelity and cruel spouses who use their kids as chess pieces can do to someone. And he did not want anyone to go through what he did. He brought the idea to Robin and decided to get a business loan to start his own private investigations company. He was already a family court lawyer, but he wanted to do more to help others who he once was, and not be hustled and exploited due to their desperation. He wanted the best people and equipment not so much working for him, but their clients. He hired a former Alaskan state trooper named Todd McFarland to be his field agent, and 3 secretaries, Shannon, Rebecca, and Jana. The 3 young women were survivors of the horrific sex trafficking ring. But with Andy's support, they eventually recovered from their trauma. Despite what happened to them, they proved that they were strong enough to live and go on with their lives, without their trauma of what they endured rule over their own. And they wanted to pay Andy back for helping them, and he was more than willing. Andy and Robin almost became parental figures to them, and the girls looked up to them both. Each girl would work a shift, be it morning, evening, or graveyard and handle the files and report. In the event one had to leave, they would lock down the building and contact Andy and inform him. The construction of the building took time, effort, and money, but all were met. At times it was grueling and hard, but the result was worth it. The building was an old firehouse that was 4,000 square feet and 3 stories, but they remodeled it and modernized it for their means. When the construction was over, all the people celebrated. The party had just wrapped up when Robin had finished her shift and wanted to see her husband before she went home, to celebrate with him privately, breaking the new business in as only a loving and passionate couple could. They loved each other so much, and no matter what would be there for each other. As Robin gathered herself and put her clothes back on, she could not help but smile as she spoke to Andy. "You know I can't lie. Being married to you does have its perks. No matter how trying my day may be, I have you to aid me in dealing with said trying. I know you will support and be there for me as I will for you. Not to mention you screwing my brains out after a day of doing reports and bad coffee. That is a bit of a bonus too." Andy laughs. "Oh, so I'm just a proper toy to you then?" Both smile before Robin answers, "You are mine as much as I'm yours, my love." They kiss again as Andy's phone buzzes. "Hello? Bear? Hey man, it's good to hear from you. Hey, thanks again for the wedding catering. I know it has been over a year, but the food was amazing." "Huh. Yeah, send him tomorrow morning. Consider it done." Robin looked intrigued. "First client?" Baxter answered. "Yeah, says it is someone he knows, thinks his wife is cheating and want a divorce. Going to talk to him tomorrow at 8 in the morning. Robin paused. "But why not talk to him now? It is only 8 at night." Andy brought his wife to him and kissed him. "Because as much as I want to help people, I want to demonstrate how much I love my wife by continuing our affair in the comfort of our bed at home with a few more rounds." Robin felt his hand explore her body as he kissed her. She smiled as if she broke away. "You evil, wicked man." Andy smiled back. "Yes, but I'm your evil, wicked man." The loving couple then went home to continue their passionate and loving session with each other. The next morning, Baxter gathered himself and got ready for the appointment. It was strange sleeping on the campus again, but he needed someone to watch the children as he went out, and Bear was more than willing to do so. They were his grandkids in a sense. They even called him Pop Pop or Old Man out of respect and love. As Baxter got dressed, he made a note of what he must say and ask. He did not ever think he was in this position. He then went to the room for his children. He kissed both of their sleeping heads. He knows this will be difficult for them, but he will do everything he can to protect them. He drove to the address that Bear provided for him. It took him only 20 minutes to arrive. He was surprised by the look of the building. The sign had the illustration of a caped robin with a mask that covered its eyes. The words, "Robin's Family Council and Private Investigations," are on display. Wasn't this a Fire's house at one point? He said to himself. The looks of the building were impressive. The outside looked brand new despite its history. A new and strong concrete wall replaced the original bricks of its exterior. The fire doors, now another wall, with a large door near the side of the front instead of its center. The interior looked like a professional office building with polished wood floors and walk hallway carpets. Baxter then took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Upon exiting, he was met by a young woman he never met. She looked no older than 20 and was very beautiful and kind in her demeanor. "Hello, Mr. Davis. My name is Shannon. Mr. Robbins is expecting you. Give me one moment to let him know you have arrived, and I'll let you inside." Once she was done talking on the phone, she then turned to Baxter. "Mr. Robbins will see you now." As Baxter entered the office, Andy greeted him with his handshake and hug, as if he were getting an old friend. Baxter could not help but feel appreciated in that feeling, because right now he could use all the friend he could get. "Mr. Davis, Bear told me about your situation. For what it is worth, I'm sorry to meet you under these circumstances. Please come and sit. Why don't you tell me in your words what happened, and why we are meeting here today?" And Baxter did just that. He shared all that he had endured these past years. The change in behavior, the disrespect, even the last incident when he pulled out his gun on the man who was the driver for his wife friend Maxine, and how it was affecting both him and the kids. Andy took all this in. "I'm going to be honest with you, Baxter. Some of the things I say you will not like, but know that you have my word that the things I say are meant to help you, more than make you feel good. From what you tell me, your wife has been influenced heavy by this friend of yours. Not excusing her behavior, mind you. In the end, she is an adult, not a child. Do you recall when your sex life took a dive and why?" Baxter thought about it. "Yeah, I'd say a year or two ago. At first, it was like she would come up with excuses, a headache or something. But then she would try guilt-tripping and gaslighting. It got to the point that if I asked her what was wrong, she would suddenly argue. I had to threaten her for a divorce, just for her to tell me it was stress at work and to have a semi-normal sex life with my wife. Until it starts again. She started coming home late and not even caring about the kids at time, but more so our son. It was as if she would go out of her way to detect herself from him on time. Then after what happened the other night was the last straw. Andy looked at Baxter and spoke. From what you were telling me, she has been in an affair for a while, I would say 2 years. Has she tried to talk to you at all about what is bothering her? Baxter just shook his head no. I may as well ask her to pull her teeth out, than to have her what was causing her to hate me so much. Sure, I'm good with my wit, and usually a good rebuttal would stop the tirade dead in its tracks, but I would be no closer to know what was going on with my wife. The crazy thing is that she still lives at the house. Kinda anyway, it is more like her stuff for storage rather where she lives. She hardly spends time with the kids anymore. It's like they are a burden to her now. Like we all are. A tear left Baxter's eye. Baxter, we can find evidence of cheating if it is there, but it will cost, I won't lie to you. And we also must find a significant amount. The court tends to delay divorce when it comes to cheating. Also, you have kids. Courts seem to favor women a lot, even with cheating involved. Nevertheless, this is an at-fault state, and cheating can be a deciding factor. Alimony and spousal support can be cut out. And this friend of hers, if it can be proven she caused the change in behavior of your wife, she along with her affair partner can be held liable. Are you ready to proceed? Is this what you want? Baxter thought about it for a moment. Is this marriage truly over? Can it be fixed? Then he realized the more he asked such questions to himself, he knew the answer. My marriage has been over for a long time. It's time to make a change, and I need to protect my kids. Andy nodded. All right then. We will start by having you sign the paperwork that allows us to work for you. It also grants us permission to access your phones, property, files, or anything under your name that will aid our investigation. We will install cameras in your home and vehicle. Vehicles actually, both are in my name. Andy smiled. Even better, we will also have our PI follow her and keep you posted on any updates. Any questions? Baxter shook his head no. Good. Now about the incident involving the gun. You said you aimed it at the party due to self-defense. A judge will support that if there is merit. Do you have evidence of that? Baxter responded. Yes, a few months prior someone was stealing my packages, so I had 2 cameras installed. One for the front door, and the other in the living room to pick up angle the front camera couldn't. I ended up going to the police and advised them about the situation and showed the entire thing on video. They supported my actions and asked if I wanted to press charges, but I told them no. So that situation is taken care of. Andy nodded with approval. Good, this helps us, no surprise attacks. Now, we get started. With that, Andy got up and shook Baxter's hand, then brought him in for a hug. You are going to be all right, Baxter. No matter what happens, I'm going to be there with you every step of the way. And for the first time in what seems like ages, Baxter felt hope come back, rather than leave. Meanwhile, Megan had just left the hotel suite. She never felt anything like that in years. Her legs still wobbled from the effects of pleasure she had with Maxine and her friend. She thinks how stupid and stubborn Baxter is, that he fails to realize how this could benefit them both if he wasn't so childish. That damn idiot. Can't he see this will help us both? I'm not his property. And that damn ego of his gets bruised every time I try to correct him. He just has to say some smart-ass comment back that I can't counter. As she rants to herself, she thinks back to how all this began with Maxine. Her marriage had no more issues than any marriage. Despite them, they loved each other. But she remembers wanting something more than it was. She met Maxine by accident at a diner she eats lunch in when she was on break. Maxine would build a bond with her, and in time speak of her exploits as a CEO for a pharmaceutical company in a man's world. How she would crush so-called big shot with big ego, just to buy them out of their company and fire them. And how she would use them as men have used women for eons. There was something appealing about her. How she could get what she wanted, the attention, the fear, and respect. She would listen to Maxine tell stories of the men and women she had sex with and how hot it made her feel. In time, she would spend more time with Maxine than with her own family. Eventually, the two began an affair. At first, she was in shock and guilt-ridden. But Maxine convinced her that her guilt was society and men's way to shame her, shackling her from truly growing into a beautiful woman. That anyone who could not understand that a woman has needs that deserve to be met are merely tools for an oppressive system that intends to rule over women, to keep them controlled. That marriage is legalized sex slavery for potential baby factories, nothing more. The more time she spent with Maxine, the more disillusionment she felt, and the sex would only grow and intensify. It was soon Maxine and other partners that would share in the pleasures of Megan's body. And every time she did it, she was proud of it, and bitterness towards her husband grew as well. In time, she would stop having sex with him altogether, when Maxine would tell her to save her body for her and others who deserved and appreciated it more than he did. And when he threatened to divorce her, she was so angry with him that she had sex with one of her lovers, cleaned herself, and had make-up sex with Baxter, despite him not knowing that another man just had sex with her not even an hour ago. She and Maxine would laugh at that fact, especially when he did not put up with her insults and disrespect. It did not matter. She had a plan to rule him over. It would be him doing what she said in due time. She would make Baxter her pet. He just didn't know it yet. You will be mine to control, you a-hole. You will see. You are my useful idiot, nothing more. Across town, Baxter had brought his kids home. They went to the living room and watched a movie they never had a chance to watch. One of the things he loved about his kids was their taste in movie. He had a fantasy adventure, and the kids picked up that trait. They watched Willow, Never-Ending Story, and other classics from Baxter's childhood. As Baxter was watching, his daughter noticed tears come out of his eye. "Dad, are you all right?" Baxter was taken aback a little bit. "I'm okay, sweetie. Just had a rough couple of days is all. Because of Mom, right?" Baxter had to admit that his daughter was sharp. "Dad, me and Alex aren't stupid. We hear and see you and Mom fight when you think we are not looking. And we haven't seen Mom around lately. So, tell us what's going on. We have a right to know, and you know that." Baxter took a breath. "You are right, sweetie. I'm sorry. Your mother and I have been having problems lately. And if things don't change, we may have a divorce. But whatever happens between me and your mother, know that I will never leave you. You two are my world and I love you. And I will do everything in my power to keep you both safe and be there for you. You understand?" Alex nodded with the popcorn still in his mouth, as did Melissa. Despite the news, their parents may be parting ways, they knew that this was going to happen at some point. It hurt them, of course. Melissa then responded, "We love you too, Dad. Just promise not to ignore us like Mom has done." Both kids hugged him, and he allowed a tear to drop. He could not understand why, after all these years together, why Megan would allow this and walk away from the family that loved her. Suddenly the door opens, and Megan enters the door. Her dress she wore slightly off and wrinkled, and her hair looked as if it were messy but fixed at the last minute. "Hey, my babies. How are you? What are you watching?" The kids just looked at their mother, but did not respond. Then Baxter said, "Kids, why don't you go upstairs to your rooms? Me and Mom need to talk." Without a word, they went upstairs. Megan looked irritated that they did not even acknowledge her presence, but listened to their father. When the kids went upstairs, Baxter turned to face her, a look she had never seen written over his face. "What are you doing here, Megan?" Megan was surprised at Baxter's tone. A feeling of fear creeped in her spine, but it was soon buried by stubborn determination. "The last I checked, this is my home." Legally it was not. Baxter bought it in a lottery before they were married, putting the house in his name alone when he bought it off. He knew this, of course, but knew where this would lead. He had to control his emotions and let her dig her hole. "There are going to be some changes, Baxter. As you are obviously aware, I have been seeing other men, including the one you threatened the other night, you psycho. I have not been happy for a long time. Hell, we both haven't. You know you could have told me that, right? And perhaps could have found a way to be happy again as a couple without you becoming a hooker. That's a thought, right?" Megan turned beet red. "Goddamn you, Baxter. Why do you always do that? Come up with some smartass rebuttal?" "Well, it is usually because someone insulted me in the first place, and I respond in kind. Perhaps if you weren't such a bitch to me these past 2 years, your face would not have to look the same color as a stop sign." Megan paused and took deep breaths before she continued. "Baxter, you need to accept the fact that I'm doing this for us. Our sex life, or any time we have together, is just an argument. Do you have any idea how much I hate coming home with you here? Every time I look at you, it makes me sick. I hear Pepto-Bismol can help with that." With that, an engaged Megan throws a vase at Baxter. It misses his head by inches, but he does not even flinch. "Was that it? You are done now? Okay. You are out of your mind if you think I'm going to accept being your cuck that you can't stand. And you even more nuts if you think this will work out for you. What if I refuse this proclamation of yours?" Megan cruelly smiled. "Then I just destroy you in the courts. In the end, you have no proof, just your word against mine. I could also have one of my lovers smack me around or two and say you did it, and make him a witness you would commit perjury just because I don't want to be your cuck." Again, Megan smiled. "Absolutely. It is time you know your place, worm." Baxter just shook his head, realizing that his best friend that he had now for years, the woman he fell in love with and married, was gone. "What happened to you, Megan? Who put this bullshit in your head? Your best buddy? Maxine Gullett?" Megan paused before she answered. You know what? I'll tell you. Yes, she introduced me to this life. And you want to know what else? She pleased and screwed me in ways you never could. Not only did we sleep together, but we also shared other lovers together too. She spoke as if she were proud of admitting the affair. The same Maxine Gullett of Crystal Herb Industries? The pharmaceutical company? Megan smiled again. Who else would I be talking about? Of course, you idiot. And you want to know what else? I'm going to sleep with whoever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want. And there is jack shit you are going to do about it. A dark look came to Baxter's eyes as he looked at Megan. I do not give consent to you having any of your lovers here, where my children lay in their beds. Please, as if you can stop me. A cold, dangerous look came into his eye as he stepped closer to Megan. Fear gripped her. Megan, listen to me very closely. I will not tolerate you being a hooker under this roof. We clear on that? Megan found herself backing away towards the door, fear painted in her eyes. Baxter then spoke. I think you should leave, Megan. I can't stand the sight of you. Megan then turned the door handle and spoke out as she left. This is not over, Baxter. As he saw Megan leave, he took a deep breath. Despite his demeanor, he was devastated with what he went through. He could not understand what happened to his friend, his wife, his love. It was truly over, and it broke his heart. He then realized it was time to act. He knew the conversation was being recorded. It was why he never threatened her or her affair partners. He also got her to confess that Maxine had convinced her to take the road she is currently on, and even engage with her during her sexual exploits. He will use that and more. Baxter would not change the door locks. He knew Megan would bring her lovers here out of spite, and rather than get mad, he would use it to destroy her in court, along with Maxine and any lover she may bring to their marital bed. He dealt with bullies all his life, and despite how heartbroken it made him, he recognized Megan as one of the many bullies he dealt with. And bullies have massive egos, and he would exploit that fact. He called Andy and told him the situation. Andy said he would have someone over in 30 minutes and advised him to take his kids out for a bit to get home ready for recording. He also told him to send him what he has recorded. Baxter did as instructed. He got his kids up for a late night out. He went to a late-night movie theater, showing a movie the kids wanted to see. After that, they went to a diner. On his way back home, he got a text from Andy with a thumbs up, signaling the house is ready. When he got home, he put his kids to bed and went to bed himself. As he lay in it, he thinks and plans on how so much will now change, wishing it was not going to happen, but it will. And as sleep took hold of him, he accepted the fact that this will be the new reality from now on. Weeks passed and Baxter with time began to heal, or more so understand the fact that he was no longer married to Megan, he just didn't get the paperwork yet. He eventually moved into the basement. When Megan asked why, he told her, why lay in a material bed when my own wife chose not to be my wife in the first place? Megan just rolled her eyes and moved on. The way she figured is that she would bring her lovers over, and he would be none the wiser. She would not dare bring them there while he was home. She knew his work schedule and knew when to have fun. The children began to lose respect for their mother on time. They may have been young, but they weren't stupid, and they knew what their mother was doing. She would bring them to school, and then go to work, and bring one of her lovers to have sex with her at home during her break or her day off. The session would always end before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the time Baxter would be home from work. However, Baxter knew exactly what she was doing. He did not know the extent, however he soon would. Another month would pass. One day he was on his way home. He and Megan decided to send the kids to stay with Megan's mom for spring break. She loved having them over since her husband died. The kids loved her. On his way, he gets a call from Andy. Baxter, meet me in my office as soon as you can. Baxter was there in 15 minutes. When he arrived, Andy had a solemn look in his eyes. What's wrong? Did the cameras pick up anything? Andy got up to put on his coat. No need to worry, the cameras work just fine. It is bad, Baxter. I will stay with you if you want someone here with you. Just know that you have the proof you need to divorce your wife, and then some. Baxter thought about it. You got a soda pop so I can watch this alone then? Like a friend, Andy fixed the drink of Coca-Cola and gave him a hug after. For what it is worth, I'm so sorry, man. With that, he closed the door, instructing his staff not to disturb him. With a deep breath, Baxter turned on the video. Shock would not describe what Baxter saw. He saw his wife have sex in every room except for the kids' room as far as the house was concerned. He witnesses his wife being taken by strangers he never met a day in his life. He saw her be double-teamed by married men from his church. He even saw her with his daughter's music teacher, Mississippi Baldwin, and Maxine at the same time. He watched as his wife was willingly used by an entire group of men and women, including Maxine, in the marital bed. He watched and listened as her lovers, both men and women, would mock him for being so clueless. A man he did not know would speak into her ear as her was screwing her from behind. "I bet that sorry sack of shit cuck of yours never screwed you like this, did he?" Megan would respond in a pleasurable drunken stupor. "No, he has never done me like you do, baby. Oh God, do me more." He watched as Mississippi Baldwin mocked him as well when she was pleasuring Megan. "That cuck loser has no idea how to please a woman, does he? No, he does not come close to you." There was also video footage of Megan meeting lovers in restaurants and even nightclubs, along with photos and other videos of her meeting them in either hotels, residences, or even at their jobs. The main thing they had in common was Maxine. There was even a video of Maxine and Megan together in Maxine's office building. She was so arrogant that she would let Megan have sex with her with the window wide open, despite it being on the top floor of her skyscraper office building. As the tears fell, a slow rage built within him. He realized the people in the group were well connected in the community. He would make sure they all paid for what they did to him. When he opened the door, Shannon was taken aback by the sight. "I apologize if I scared you. Tell Andy he has full permission to file the divorce papers. Don't deliver them. Just let me know when they are done. I'll deliver them myself." The following week, Megan has just finished a sexual liaison at her job. Cleaning herself up before going back to work, she heard a knock on her office door. It was one of her assistants. "Mrs. Davis, someone is here to see you. I believe it is your husband." Megan hurried down to the main entrance, hoping her children were all right. But when she arrived, she saw that Baxter had a very relaxed and calm look on his face. "Baxter? What are you doing here?" Baxter gave a tired smile. "I'm here to tell you in person 2 things. Don't come home, and that I'm done." With that, Baxter gave her a vanilla envelope. Baxter was already in his car driving away before he could hear her screams and see her tears. Not only were they divorce papers, but also a restraining order not to come to the place she called home for over 10 years. When it was time to go to family court, Megan denied any wrongdoing of any kind. She demanded half of Baxter's savings and benefits. Baxter and Andy waited patiently as Megan and her lawyer insulted and insinuated every malice and lie they could think of to destroy Baxter as a man and husband. When the tirade and demands from Megan's team were over, both Andy and Baxter only smiled as the nuclear bomb they were about to drop. Andy then spoke. "Your Honor, if it please you and the court, I would like to play the evidence, as well as pass it along to all parties at this time." As the yellow envelopes were passed out, Andy hit the play button. The video and pictures passed around all of Megan's sexual exploits, as well as Maxine, Mrs. Baldwin, and other lovers. The court saw as Megan was having sex with her lovers in the marital bed of her and her husband, as her and her lover mocked her husband in the said bed. Megan then stood up and screamed, "You son of a bitch! You recorded me in my own home. You a-hole? How could you?" Before anyone could respond, Megan jumped up from her stand and ran towards Baxter. Baxter was ready for her and was more than capable of defending himself from her if needed be. But before he could, Megan was tackled by a court bailiff. The woman tackled her as if she was Lawrence Taylor and Megan was the unfortunate Washington Redskins quarterback Joe Theismann. When it was over, a defeated Megan was handcuffed, and she was taken into custody by the woman to be held in contempt. The judge ruled that this would be settled sometime next week. The following week, Andy received a call from Megan's attorney. When the conversation was over, Andy called Baxter to his office. "Hey Baxter, how you holding up?" Baxter gave Andy a particular look. "You're right, dumb question. I apologize." "No man, no need to apologize. I just zoned out for a bit. To be honest, after everything, it still feels so unreal. Anyway, what up, Andy?" Andy took a breath. "As you know, this divorce is going through, but I have an interesting call from her lawyer. Apparently, she now realizes she is screwed up. Not only is her custody with the kids gone, but so is support of any kind, and she is getting a charge of terrorist threat that is going to give her a few weeks in county to cool off. But apparently, she wants to talk to you. This isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card. She is toast, as is her career, and she knows it. What do you say? You up for it?" Baxter thought about it for a moment, then decided. "Set it up." A few weeks later, Baxter went into Travis County Jail. After giving up all electronics and identification, he was allowed into the visitors area. When he arrived, he saw Megan. Gone was the arrogant, confident, egotistical, and proud woman. Now is only the shell of what she once was. And for the first time in ages, realizes what she had truly lost. Wearing black and white striped pants and top, she looked utterly defeated. "Your lawyer said you wanted to talk. But before you go, know that I don't want your help in any way. I got plenty of ammo to bring the others down. So, the spotlight is now yours. Talk. Megan let her tears fall, but did not make a sound. She slowly looked up to see Baxter. I guess I royally screwed things up for us, hubbub eyes. Baxter was taken aback. She had not called him that for so long. Not since he wore those big glasses when Alex was just born. It was so different then. They were best friends in love then. I do not know what I was thinking in getting involved with that woman. It was like the idea of marriage was a sickness and I fell for her bullshit. Life was beautiful with you and the kids, Baxter. I was just too stupid and blind to see it, and I let that woman blind me to it. Yes, I felt things sexually I never felt with you. But instead of being a real wife, or a woman for that matter, I did not tell you because I was too ashamed to have believed that side of me existed and prevented the chance of us growing together. And what do? Disrespect the man I loved, while alienating our children. This is not me begging you back. This is me asking for you to forgive me one day. This is me giving you full custody of the kids to you, not that I would have a say in the matter anyway. This is me saying sorry to my best friend. Baxter didn't say anything. A tear fell as he saw what used to be his best friend come back, but it was too late for them now. I forgive you, bright eyes. A look of shock and a tear-filled smile came to her face. She recognized the nickname he used to call her when she wore sunglasses when they first started dating. But like you said, this is goodbye for now. I may have custody, but if you seek help, I will not keep it from you. Believe it or not, the kids miss their mother. Even if we are done, they still need you in their life. Megan nodded her head in acceptance. As Baxter got up to leave, he stopped at the door. Without turning, he spoke. It was good seeing you again, bright eyes. Take care of yourself. And that was the last time he would see his wife. The papers were signed by both parties, and their marriage ended in a matter of days. When it was over, Baxter and Megan gave one final hug in the courtroom and wished each other well. Baxter would then explain to his kids about what happened. Okay, you two know what is going on between me and your mom. You know of our divorce, but now you must know what that means. Mom has given me full custody. It means you will be staying with me, but Mom is no longer living with us. You are not required to visit your mother, but I will not stop you from having a relationship with her if you want. She is not abandoning you, and she does love you. She is not ready to be with you right now. Your mom is seeking professional help and hopes to be a better mom for you both. Just know that whatever happens, I love you both very much and will always be there for you. The kids hugged their father as tightly as they could. They knew things would never be the same. They both were angry at their mother, but they still loved her, just hated what she done. I hope Mom gets the help she needs, Alex said in a whisper. Yeah, me too, buddy, me too. Baxter hugged his son tight. Dad, I wish she never did this. Didn't break us up. I hate what she did but still love her. His daughter spoke in tears. And that is perfectly fine, hun. You're allowed to be angry. I'm proud that you don't hate her, though. She risked her life to bring you in this world, and aside you all these years. The family hugged each other and fell asleep on the couch in exhaustion. Baxter woke up to a phone call. It was Andy. Yeah, man, what up? It is 3 in the morning. More the reason to get things ready. Those videos are now coming to be of use. You have the ammo you need to sink the ego ship of those pieces of shit that destroyed your marriage. You ready for this? Absolutely. Good. Go back to sleep. We start war this afternoon. War was indeed beginning. The people found in the sex videos with Megan were about to be ruined beyond recognition. Maxine was served papers that morning in the middle of a meeting. When Megan cut her off from sexual meetings, she thought nothing of it. Another marriage was ruined. But before she could celebrate, she was approached by a young, beautiful woman in her office meeting. Maxine thought it was another sexual conquest for a moment when she saw her. Maxine Gullett? Yes, my lovely dear. And you are? The young woman said nothing but gave her a vanilla envelope and took her picture with a camera. You have been served. Maxine was shocked as she saw it, and her peers were awestruck. The same scene was played all over town. Miss Bowen was served in the middle of her English class. Bert Castor of Bert Home Goods were served at his house. Marcus and Linda Howards were both served in their church meeting, as was Marcus's brother. It did not stop there. Business owners who were small and big were hit by the scandal. Word spread how elites who were respected and feared were responsible for breaking up a marriage between two young high school sweethearts. When it was all said and done, many people's business and reputations were ruined. Miss Baldwin was divorced by her wife due to infidelity. Her wife gave her divorce papers and a photo of her being pleased by a man. The Howards and brothers were expelled from the church and forced to pay restitution out of pocket. And Maxine got it the worst. Not only did she engage with Megan with the malicious purpose of destroying a marriage, but she also used people working under her. She also used her business partners and clients. All had to pay up. Months passed after everything was said and done. Melissa and Alex were adjusting as best as they could. The divorce still hurt, but they were moving on, especially with family therapy and time. Megan moved in with her parents. She would see a psychologist near them in Dallas and keep her word in keeping in touch with the kids and keep them updated. Baxter felt numb to it all. He was not sure what to feel. He was so focused on making sure the kids were all right and making the people who destroyed his marriage pay, he hardly took time to consider how he himself should feel. He had put in his 2 weeks as a full-time employee to take a break and spend time with his kids. One night, he found himself at a local bar he had been attending since this whole thing started. He never got drunk, but it was a place to hang his head and talk. One person was the bar owner and server Nia Williams. Nia was 5 feet 5 inches tall, with caramel ebony skin and a lean and fit body with the hips and legs to match. With the face of an angel with a blue eye and blue-dyed yet natural short pixie cut style, with the length of her natural hair stopping at her ear and partially covering her left eye. An Army combat veteran, she had a tattoo of a humanoid muscular bald eagle in combat fatigues holding a combat knife in one hand, and the American flag in another, the words, "This we defend" above the image, tattooed on her right shoulder. Despite the fact she was beautiful, she was also deadly, with the amount of combat she saw. However, Baxter never guessed it. She was so kind, caring, and neutering that he never would have guessed. He knew she served with her pictures in uniform, as well as company pictures featuring her in them. Even one when she was flying an Apache helicopter. But he never pried too much into that. He just appreciated her time and willingness to hear. As time went on, he let her know his plans and actions as the relationship was in essence over. One night, he told her of the video he had found of Megan and how devastated he was. She comforted him, giving him water instead of beer to keep him sober, and let him cry on her shoulder. When he stopped crying, however, he did not let her go. Through meeting each other, feelings began to develop. He soon found his hand caressing her behind, and she did not stop him. In fact, her hands began to explore as well. It was only a matter of time before their tongues would meet in a passionate kiss for the first time. Suddenly, he got a hold of himself and stopped. "Oh my God, Nia, I'm so sorry. I took advantage of you. I'm such a shit." Nia simply placed her finger on his mouth. "Took advantage? Baxter, I'm a grown woman. I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew exactly what I wanted to do to you and wanted you to do to me. You have no need to apologize. But I get it. You want to be loyal in the end. Just know that if the day comes and you are ready to let someone warm that cold heart of yours again, well, you know where to find me." Eventually, the events and lawsuits passed. Businesses, relationships, and marriages lie in ruin as a result for selfish people lying with people who were already taken and thinking there would be no consequence towards it. And now, after 7 months of talking while fighting back feelings for each other, the divorce was finalized. Baxter let Bear and his wife, Jennifer, watch the kids while he went to see Nia. When he arrived, she was in the process of locking down the bar when he knocked. When she saw it was him, she opened the door. "Hey Baxter, everything all right? You're usually here earlier." No words were said as he placed his hand on her cheek, lightly brushing it. They had built a bond this year, and they knew it. They never slept together, but the flirting and signs were there on both ends and could not be denied. But it was mostly the longing for each other and respect they had for each other. As he brushed his hand across her face, her body felt chills and she wanted more. "Don't tease me, baby. I got the news. You know I'm yours. Just show me already." With that, he took her face to his and kissed her passionately. As his hands explored her body, she removed their clothes as she reached for his body. They made love in that very bar. It was as if long-lost lovers had finally found each other in the ocean of time. Her screams, his moans echoed in the walls of that bar as they pleased each other with such raw passion. Baxter had not touched a woman in months. When it was over, they both lay on the floor, a blanket beneath them both. "You are so helping me clean up this bar." He smiled as he turned towards her. "Yes, ma'am." As time went on, Baxter would eventually tell his kids that he has a girlfriend now and asked if they would want to meet her. Alex was all for it. He liked the idea of meeting someone his dad liked. Melissa was happy for her dad, but she wanted to make sure he wasn't going to be hurt again. They all met for a family dinner at the local pizza spot. 2 large pizzas were ordered, one with everything, one with just cheese. Alex was kind and curious. "Dad said you were in the army, that you flew airplanes and stuff. What was it like?" Nia had to laugh at the child's innocence. "Yeah, I flew my share. I flew Apache helicopters and A-10 Warthogs. I even fought with another fighter pilots. You know what her name was?" Alex shook his head. Starscream. Alex looked in amazement. Really? That's so cool. They were a Decepticon. Nia nodded. Yep, but then Alex spoke up. But I thought Starscream was a bad guy. Nia paused before she continued. Well, she was our bad guy. Meaning she was the bad guy to the ones that were going to hurt some good people. I flew with her many times. Then Melissa chimed in. Wait a minute. She? And you? Women fighter pilots? You both flew combat missions for the army. Nia answered, yes, we did. And the one that flew with me was a savage hands down. She saved many a life, that's for sure. And she was many an enemy nightmare from the sky. We both were. She was the best pilot I ever flew with. In fact, we were so good that if people saw our name in their mission brief, they knew they were going home. They ended up calling me Thundercracker. Nicknames were weird but honoring at the same time. It was based on both humor and your skill in the air. Being that she was Starscream, and I had my nickname, they called us the Decepticons. Baxter could not help but smile as his kids were mesmerized by her tales. He then nudges her and says, oh yeah, you got them sold. Both he and Nia laughed as the kids looked in confusion. The rest of the evening was full of fun, excitement, and memories, and went on without a hitch. As time went on, the family and Nia's bond would only grow stronger. A year later, Nia is walking down the aisle in her wedding dress. Melissa, now 14, is one of her bridesmaids. As the months passed, the two built a bond together. Melissa would soon look up to Nia from hearing her struggles and how she overcame them. It was like a transition to big sister and eventually mother. Alex, the ring bearer. Nia's father, Stephen William, who served in the 101st Airborne in Vietnam, proudly walked his daughter down the aisle. Nia's mother sat in the front row with Bear and his wife. The wedding was beautiful and intimate. It was at Butler Park. Nia looked like an angel in her dress, her belly barely visible despite being 4 months pregnant. The wedding went off without an issue or hitch. All family and friend celebrated the newly-wed Mr. Baxter Davis and Mrs. Nia Williams Davis. Bear would allow the kids to stay with him during their honeymoon. Months later, Maurice Davis was born on October 31st at 10 p.m. at 3, a healthy baby boy. Maurice was welcomed by his new and loving family as he and Nia finally came home. Alex swore to look for and protect his baby brother. Melissa promised to be there for him when he needed her. Baxter and Nia looked at their family with love and pride. Across town, Robin had just woke up. She looked at his face, thankful to have him in her life. She gazed at his chiseled and hard body. After the events with his friend Tim a few years ago, he decided to train and tone his body in the event something like that happens again. He even let Tim and his wife's father train him. It was torture, but it paid off. Robin bit her lip as she saw the bulge in the sheets. I see you in a bit, my darling husband. She put her pants and shoes on, along with a windbreaker to take the dog, a 3-year-old pit bull, out for her 3 in the morning walk. As she opened the door outside, she thought about the wedding that Baxter and Nia had just had, and how happy she was for them. That and that cake they had made at the reception, she would have to ask for ingredients so she could make it for Andy and the kids one day. As she was walking, however, something seemed to be off. A moment ago, she was sure she was in her neighborhood. Yet now, she seems to be somewhere else. Somewhere not her home but familiar. I know this place, but how? Suddenly she is tackled by someone as a van takes a shot at her. Without thinking, she gathers herself and reaches for her sidearm and check on the person who saved her, or more like persons. She then looked at the van in the distance, and then the building behind her. It was her childhood home. Wait, if I'm here, then that means. She slowly looks down at the people who saved her and see the bullet wounds on their bodies. Mom? Dad? Both suddenly open their eyes and speak at the same time. Robin, they need you. She then wakes up suddenly, screaming in sweat. The noise wakes up Andy, and he calms her down. Robin, baby, it's me. Baby, hear my voice. Look at me. Andy placed both hands on her face, making her look at him until she called down. Andy, baby, is it you? Yes, baby, it is me. Robin just hugged her husband as tight as she could, letting the tears fall. The dream, it was my parents. The shooting happens all over again in front of me, and I could not stop it. Oh, baby, it hurt so much I could not. Robin then stopped herself. She recalled what her parents said. Wait, they said something. They need you. Andy looked confused. Not much of a message. Who do you think they were talking about? Robin pondered and thought hard. Then she remembered she was thinking about Baxter and Nia's wedding. A dreadful thought came to mind. Andy, can you do me a favor and give Baxter a call? Baxter had just finished making love to Nia, her heavenly body exquisite and beautiful as the afterglow shines in the moonlight. He then allows himself the moment of peace and serenity as he looks into her eyes. My God, woman, you are beautiful. Her beautiful ebony skin glows in the moonlight, her smile capable of brightening a dark day. She kisses him as she recovers from the pleasure he gave her body. You not to bad yourself, handsome. Baxter then gets up, putting on a tank top and pajamas. I don't think our audience needs to see me in my birthday suit. Nia laughed. Agreed. That body and its attributes are for my eye alone, mister. If you're going to the bathroom, could you bring me back an ice water, baby? Baxter turned and knelt to kiss his wife. Was already on my mind, beautiful. See you in a minute. Love you, baby. Nia kisses and responds, love you more. Baxter then left the room. After relieving himself, he made his way downstairs. As he made his glass of water, he noticed something. The picture with him, Bear, and the family were turned closer to the door, rather than closer to the stove. He then saw a shadow coming from behind him. He then ducked down just in time to miss a knife that was aimed at his neck. He grabbed a frying pan and blocked each shot. The attacker then got frustrated and slashed faster and harder. Eventually, Baxter got cut in a slash the attacker made. Then stabbed on his lower right side, wounded, Baxter yelled. Nia heard the commotion and immediately got dressed in sweatpants and a t-shirt. She loaded her pistol grip Benelli M4 semi-automatic shotgun, grabbing the .357 Colt Python as well, and made her way through the door. She made sure the upper area was clear and made her way to Melissa's room. Waking her up, she told her, Melissa, something is wrong. Go get your brothers and bring them in our room and lock the door and call the police. No matter what you do not unlock the door. Your father and I have the code, okay? Melissa was terrified. Something was wrong if Nia having her shotgun, but she did not argue. Nia and she would practice drills. Each time she tells Melissa that if something happens to her parents, it is her responsibility to take care of her and her brothers and make sure they are safe. With that, Melissa got both her brothers up and got them to the room, locking the door behind them. The door was made of a heavy redwood, with iron bolts and a man-made door barrier in the event of an emergency. No one was breaking through that door. Once she was sure the kids were safe, she made her way downstairs to aid her husband. Baxter was in trouble. Not only was he cut across his arm with a gaping cut, but he was now stabbed, and the one who did it was not letting up. The guy had him by a feet and probably a 50 to 100 pounds. Baxter got hit on him with the pan and made him drop the knife. But the guy recovered and gave him a surprise left hook. With the amount of blood he lost, Baxter lost most of his strength and went down. The man then placed his hands around Baxter's neck and squeezed. Had to make things difficult, didn't you, you little bitch? Suddenly Baxter heard an explosion and found that he was covered with blood, not his own. The man above him fell to the floor dead before he hit the ground. The massive hole in what used to be his chest obvious. Baby? Baxter, baby, talk to me. Baxter began to come to answer. Got stabbed. Nia looked at the wound. Don't worry, baby. The first aid is in the H. Suddenly Nia is on the ground. A spot of blood forming in her left shoulder as gunfire is heard. Yeah, got you, bitch. That was for Mike, you. The man didn't finish his statement as Baxter shot the python he took from Nia. The bullet entered his skull, leaving a hole the size of a bowling ball in the back of it. Despite the pain, he makes his way to his wife, who is now wounded. Nia, baby, you okay? Nia smiled at him. Not really, baby, the hole being shot and all. Despite what was happening, the couple laughed about it. Baxter was trying to get up when he saw someone outside the window, a Thompson submachine gun fully automatic aimed at him. He looked at Nia and smiled. I love you, beautiful. Take care of them, okay? Robin sped through the city to make it to the home of Baxter and Nia. She could not understand why, but something told her she had to be there. No, she must be there no matter what happens. She soon found the block where the house was and saw an all-black van and saw a group of people stepping out of it. She watched as two made their way outside, each holding a gun. One was holding a tactical knife with a 9mm Glock 19 on his side, stepping out of it. Eventually, she heard guns fire inside the home. That was all the incentive she needed. This time she would be ready. This time there would be no mistakes. The only ones leaving are these a-holes in body bags. She immediately calls for backup and gives them her badge and number and addresses them to the operator. She then makes sure her vest is secured, thankful she put it on before she came here. All are covered in mask and dressed in black, with weapons already out. She finds the cover, takes a shot at one who is aiming for something inside the house. The bullet entered his head, his body slumping to the ground. One of the men cried out, "Holy shit! Johnny is freaking dead. Where the hell is the shooter?" The panicked man wondered as he tried to find them. He foolishly made his way out. "Where are you, a piece of shit? Come out and fight me like a man." Robin used the cover of darkness to her advantage. Using the steel tall dumpster as cover, she watched as the man shot his AK-47 at random. She was thankful that the home was in a rural area, reducing the chance of a stray bullet, but this guy had to go before he killed someone. She calmingly took aim, knowing he could in no way see her. "Where the hell are you?" "You. Sorry, Sakov?" His insults and bravado ended the moment the bullet entered between his eyes. He was dead before he hit the ground. The drive then came out, with a .50 caliber Desert Eagle, a very powerful handgun. But when you have a sharpshooter whose own weapon, a 9mm chrome Beretta, may as well be an extension of her hand, it may as well be a slingshot. "You want to see tomorrow, tough guy? Do not as far as fart. Drop it." The man dropped the gun, no questions asked. She handcuffed him and made her way inside. "Baxter? Nia?" She then heard something from the kitchen. "In here." When she arrived, she saw a wounded Baxter and a wounded Nia trying to aid him. Robin then called her phone. "Dispatch, I need an ambulance at this address now. Be advised all hostiles are now in custody, including those who are deceased." Robin provided any first aid she could, then Baxter spoke. "The kids, please make sure they are okay." At that time, police arrived on the scene. "Your kids are going to be fine. We gotta make sure you two get patched up." In the next few hours, Baxter and Nia are taken to the hospital. The kids are watched over until Bear and come and get them. The men that Robin killed were known contract killers. The only survivor, Larry Samuels, a man of Irish descent from Boston, was taken into custody. The new Attorney General, Matthew Gonzalez, took the case and threatened to seek the death penalty. According to Texas law, Mr. Samuels, even if you yourself didn't kill someone, but someone got killed due to your actions, you are liable for the death penalty. Now we can avoid the needle in your arm with a 30-year sentence, and you tell me everything, or you take your chances. Larry signed the paperwork and told him who hired him. A woman named Maxine Gullett. Maxine was ruined, and her company worked so hard for gone. She wanted revenge, and she used her connections to make Baxter suffer. When she was arrested, she was in the middle of dinner with friends. Shock and anger hit her face. "Who do you pigs think you are? I will buy your department just to bury you." Despite her outburst, the evidence against her was overwhelming. Banking statements, video evidence, and a recoded confession when the contractor acted on the DA behest and acted like the job was done. Her laughter was genuine when she thought Baxter and his new wife Nia were dead. What was worse was what she wanted done to their kids. "Take the little maggots to Lewis in Dallas. I'm sure he can find a decent price for them. That damn scandal hurt us years ago, but it did not get all the veins." With that, the AG authorized her to be arrested. The police got more information about the trafficking cells from Larry. He gave them everything. Cells in the state, missing persons, even a plot to kill the AG and governor. It was almost like a scandal from years prior. Many saw the events on the news and were brought back to scars from the past. When it was over 100 were in custody, sentences ranging from 20 years to death. Maxine Gullett was sentenced to death from her involvement of attempting to kill Nia and Baxter and to have their children kidnapped. She saw Nia and Baxter in the courtroom. She looked at him with pure hatred, while Baxter returned her gaze along with Nia. Baxter told her so only she could hear, "You missed?" Maxine was then led away in utter defeat. At the end of sentencing, Baxter and Nia hugged Robin. "Thank you for saving our family. If it wasn't for you, I don't even want to think about it. Just thank you for everything." Robin brushed the tear from her eye. "I'm just glad you two are all right. That is all that matters." With that, Robin hugged the thankful couple and made her way home. The moment she entered, she was embraced by her husband. "Did I ever tell you how proud of you I'm, and how much I love you?" Robin just kissed the man she loved with all her heart. "Only every time you get the chance, handsome." Andy held her. "Your parent would be so proud of you." Robin smiled at the words as a tear left her eye. "Thank you, baby. Thank you for being in my life. I love you so much." And the loving couple made love throughout the night. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, a woman dries herself off after a shower. She then pays the young man for his sexual service, then makes a call to an unknown number. "Hello?" "Yes, Maxine has failed in keeping her clothes clean, and it has cost her. No, we will not aid her any longer. All measure has been taken care of despite the finical debacle she has caused us." This lawyer, though, Andy Robbins, and his wife, Texas Ranger Sergeant Robin Robbins. "I believe they will be a problem that will cross path with us eventually." "Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am. I will keep you informed." The woman then hangs up, looking at the photos of the names she mentioned. Looking at the photo, she officially fears. And it is a feeling she can't get enough of. Finally, someone worth killing. Dear listeners, it is not a dead end. There will be a sequel. Meanwhile, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.